Hi, it's Artie and Cutie from Brown Bear Herbs. Here today, talking about my herbal smoking blend called The Social. There are other social smokes, like Sexy Smokes is a great social smoke, and Pastoral and Body can be really fun as a social smoke. But we have one herbal smoking blend called The Social, and that one is my favorite social smoke. It is made with mullein for your lungs, Yerba Santa, California poppy, and violet. And these herbs, the three herbs, the last three, are a great combo for dealing with both social awkwardness to some extent. We might not admit we have it, but many of us have some amount of social awkwardness. And also, they're good for people who have a tendency towards addiction. So if you find that you're the type of person who is only smoking when you're out at the bars or with friends, then this blend is great. And even if you are not someone who has any, like you don't drink with your friends or you don't have addictive tendencies, I love this blend. And even with my friends who I'm very comfortable with, I find that smoking it really makes our interaction like so much more pleasant. So I'll break down each of the herbs and you can kind of get a feel for it. In some of the blends that I make, the herbs are kind of like all working like along the same pathway. Like I would say Clear Mind is like that, where like they're all kind of cooling you and centering you and calming you. But in this case, it's kind of like three different, like very different herbs at the same party is how I think of them. And then they or medicines for three different people at a party. And then they work together though. It's like good members of a band. Like they're all different, but they work together. So California poppy is really wonderful herb for people who are into the music scene, and maybe you make music yourself or another type of creative person in the music scene, or you just love going to shows and stuff like that. It has the kind of properties of like helping people who can get like sucked into the glamour of performers. It's like a very kind of like when you think of like people going to California, it has kind of that like medicine for that, you know, that starstruck feeling. But it is like turning on a light within you so that you feel like you're one of the many stars in a way, not to like overblow your importance in the room, but just like get you in touch with your own like creativity and your own magic and your own sparkle. If you see a field of California poppies, they're in orange blue, they're pictured with the pouch right here. They're so beautiful and bright, every single one of them, and they kind of like they're only open when it's sunny out, and there's so many of them. They spread really quickly. My whole front yard gets filled with them in about a few weeks. They'll be like my whole front yard. It is good for that aspect of socializing where like you're kind of, you know, sucked into the glamour of the musician or performer, or you are in the spotlight yourself. It is also good for people who have tendency towards addiction. And often those like venues, there's a lot of drug use or drinking. And then, yeah, I really like that herb. It's also used medicinally. That's more like the energetics and emotional side of things. But it's also used medicinally for tinnitus related to too much rock and roll music. Thank you, Matthew, for that one. So yeah, you could take it for that. It's also a sleep regulator, so you could experiment with it. It is called a poppy, but it is a very, very mild herb. It will not trigger a drug test to be positive, and it is child safe, actually. Not the cigarette form, but just in general, that herb is so mild that they use it a lot for regulating children's sleep. So it's a mild herb. I don't, I get a lot of questions about whether or not it will trigger a drug test, and the answer is no. Um, so then violet is an herb that is used for people who do use drugs, but or have that tendency. But the social aspect of this person is more like the wallflower, and they tend to kind of not know what to do to how to interact. So instead of like being like, "Oh, I love you, you're my favorite musician," they might hold back, and maybe they might have a cigarette just to have something to do, a way to be present in the space. I feel like I'm a little bit more on the violet side of things, and maybe my friends don't believe me, but I feel like I kind of like more reserved than I normally am when I'm in a crowd. And when I smoke I didn't know what to expect actually. Like I put the blend together a while ago, and I didn't kind of know what to expect. I didn't feel like it necessarily was medicine that I needed, but I actually found that I became like more of my like goofy, relaxed self when I smoked it. But I was able to do that around like people I didn't know as well, which is fine because it's really no risk to me to like be enjoying myself more. It's just like being less, I guess, low level nervous is how I would describe it. So yeah, violet is more for the wallflower, helping them like just relax and be enjoying the space, and the people in the way that they might normally enjoy more quiet or comfortable, familiar interactions. And then the last one, Yerba Santa. I love Yerba Santa. It's one of my favorite medicines. I often use it for a lot of respiratory issues, so it's a great one to have in a smoke. Violet is also has a long history of being used as a cooling lung herb. So this has 3 lung herbs in it. There's a lot of lung herbs in my smokes because I want your lungs to feel good as you kind of decrease your tobacco, or eliminate it ideally. So Yerba Santa is a Native American herb, or like indigenous to this continent herb, and it is really good for people who have a tendency to overuse alcohol. And it's also in my humanity tea, which I made as a non-smoke support for addiction recovery from specifically alcohol, but could be used for other addictions. So with the Yerba Santa, I find it's people who they once were great, kind of like once were at like the top of their game, and then they're feeling kind of like down on their luck. So maybe like somebody it could be like different degrees, but it could be someone who feels like they have failed in some way, and they no longer feel like it could be just like you don't feel like you're as cool as you were when you were younger, or it could be that you were like a CEO and then now you have a drinking problem and you're not working because you lost your job during COVID or something like that. But they're just basically often an alcohol component, which makes it really great for this bar smoking kind of and social smoking thing, because there's usually drinking involved. And a lot of people tell me that they don't necessarily want to drink as much as they do, or maybe they don't feel great the next day. Maybe the drinking part seems fine, but it's just the next day that doesn't seem so great. So what this herb does, in my experience, it's quite beautiful to witness it in action energetically, because I can kind of I can see sometimes the energetics going on with the person who's consuming it, and it is so beautiful. It's like you can see this like kind of white light like reemerge, like come out. Like we all have this like really beautiful light within us, and it can get kind of forgotten or maybe lost in a certain way because we're focused on other things. And it gives us the ability to be our best self, whatever that means. That could mean like going back on stage, or just being very social and enjoying ourselves and letting other people enjoy us. It could mean like, reclaiming our many strengths. But I have seen it like, especially with people who have a history of drug abuse, like them realizing that they had the inner strength to master the problem that they had, that they were the person that could handle that, getting over that addiction. So whether you call whether you see your addiction, your drug and alcohol use as problems or not, this smoking blend it's my favorite. And I don't actually do drugs or drink alcohol, except for my tinctures, quite a bit of tincture taking. But so what I'm saying is very valuable and like a really good experience smoke. And actually, among my employees, which I've had many over the years, often they'll start with whatever sounds cool, and then eventually they'll try these herbs, and it's been very popular because it really does kind of like open you up to enjoy the interactions while also being like in alignment with your higher self, your highest self, like what is important to you. And sometimes it can be that in order to feel better socially, we maybe compromise on what we think is best for us. So we like drinking a little bit more, having a cigarette because we don't know how to interact with somebody we like. We might just bum a cigarette and smoke with them. So I love it, and I hope you give it a try with friends or with strangers, and let me know what you think. Have a great day. You can find our products at brownbearherbs.com. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.